Hi, and welcome to SheQuest Podcast, a radio show that will help you not only claim your awareness around the concept of power, body, beauty, voice, and the arts of your life, but truly embody it. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson. You are here to widen your lens on the unfiltered and uncurated conversation we have in my SheQuest membership program. And best yet, you'll get real life, tangible tools to stay real and true to you. Each season, we will interview incredible, knowledgeable guests, and you'll educate and uplift as we strive to live whole and not perfect. Welcome. Hi, SheQuest. Welcome to SheQuest Podcast with Guest Series. I'm your host, Estelle Thompson. This series of podcast shows is titled Art That Awakens. This month, we explore and dive deep in the world of art and creativity in general. Our theme for our last month of this wild year I've titled it Awaken Self. And for me, that really means debunking self-growth and cliche saying like awaken into your best self. What does it really mean to awaken? And how can I transform, but at a soul level? So this month's shows are all about the transformational aspect of art and making art, which is often overlooked in our culture, has as powerful transformation healing agent. So this month you're in for an artful treat as I bring artists from all kinds of background to speak to us of the necessity of self-expression and creativity and the health benefits in bringing forth with what's inside you out. My hope is this, that through our SheQuest guests this month, you start seeing that the necessity of self-expression and know with conviction that art can and does awaken. I'm so excited for today's guest. We've been going back and forth all fall. Christina Martin's in the house, and she is one powerhouse. She has won numerous awards and critical acclaim for her soaring vocals, masterful lyrics, and electric performance. I've been to one. I just love her so much. Her music blurs the line between pop, rock, and roots. It is both a cinematic grandeur and intimate refuge. Christina began recording her own music while slugging it out on Austin, Texas bar scene. She has been relentlessly recording and touring Canada and the UK and Europe, building connections at venues big and small, singing songs about loss, love, and perseverance. Her songs have been featured in film and television, and she's performed at music festivals around the world. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Estelle. I feel an awakening just hearing your voice and your passion and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for having me and continuing to reach out and make this happen.
Stop it. I wanted you on here. So we have to tell the story
Yeah.
of the plane. But first, I always start the podcast with asking the same question. I just want to know what makes you feel alive today.
Oh, that's such a great question. And I don't think I would have answered it like this even a year ago. But today, what makes me feel alive is going on walks with my husband and my family because that's how we connect. We only connect right now outside. And we've discovered in our area in Cumberland County, Nova Scotia, we've lived here for over a decade, my husband and I, and we didn't think there were any places to hike. And I feel so silly saying that. Now we've discovered all these wonderful trails that, have been people have hand carved in our community here, and it's just been really wonderful. And then the other thing that helps me, I think, has been really wonderful during this time, especially at home, tree planting. So that's
No way.
Yeah, well, being in one place as a touring musician, you don't get that luxury so often, but this has been the year for that. And we have 7.5 acres, and we've kind of turned it into a little mission. When we have new supporters on my Patreon, we plant a tree and name it after each new sign up, and we planted over with the patrons and trees, and then just some extras. We've planted over 100 saplings around our property. I just love it. And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning that tree planting, it's not as easy as I thought, keeping them alive and well. But it's just, I don't know, it's just something that's kind of taken me outside of I guess, my headspace and in my career, and what I was kind of fighting so feverishly for, and now it's chilled out a bit.
Ah, I'm getting like full body shivers, like just listening.
Yes.
It
Yes.
seemed, yeah, because it seemed like you really like reconnected to your land and your home in a way. And I love that. Like that's gonna happen to me too. Like just like the hikes and stuff and nature just around and what we have here at home, like that you weren't able to see that before. And now like you see it, and awaken to that.
Yeah, it's something to be grateful for, and we have to look for those things every day. We have to fight to remind ourselves to. I mean, this goes back to like when I used to watch Oprah. It was the only show I would watch after school, and I told when I
Yeah.
was young, and I was like, I'm not watching television, but I'll make time for Oprah. And I remember she had this like started this trend of like starting a gratitude journal, and I didn't tell anybody about it because I guess at the time I was embarrassed, but it really makes a difference when it really works. It changes you start to get in that pattern of really feeling that gratitude genuinely. I mean, it's like any habit that you need to form. It takes
Yeah.
some time, but then it just changes your chemistry, your brain. I don't friggin' know, but it helps.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's
so,
a practice in like a practice in loving what's like
mm,
around you already. That's what I ask like always before my yoga class. Like, it's like, what's good today? Like, I
mm,
just like
yeah.
take a minute, just like, what's good today? Like, because like if not, you just get sucked in.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You know what? And I want to get back to our last in-person meeting for sure. You have to tell that. But before we get to that, going back to I was a nanny in Austin, Texas. I was 19 when I moved in with my first family, and it was such an incredible experience for me. I don't think I realized at the time, and it's on my mind now because my host father at the time, George Oswald, he passed away recently, and they had a beautiful memorial service on Zoom, and I'd never been to one, and it was just so incredible to see the dedications and the memories and the family and how they just adored this man. But one thing I took from that family was every day we would have family dinner together, and they really embraced me, like took me under their wing as like, you're in the family now, and the first thing they would do when we sit down to dinner with the four kids and Kim and George Oswald is that we'd go around the table after the prayer. They would do a prayer, and that's not something I grew up with. My family was not religious. In fact, quite the opposite. And 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 then the question was, what was your favorite thing about the day? And it just kind of set the tone for the whole meal, and it was lovely. And then I started doing that later in my life when I was a nanny with other families, and we just never did that growing up.
Yeah, it's such a great practice. And by the way, like Oprah doesn't know, but she's like my best friend.
Oh, I'm sure she'd love to know.
know, right? One day she'll be on this podcast. Okay. I love all this, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And something that the conversation we have often on this podcast is about grief, and that's something like throughout this whole global pandemic, how just grief and like, I don't want to say like celebrating, but in a way, like how it has changed from like just people can't gather anymore and can't, connect in that way. So I really appreciate you just sharing the story and how much it, meant to you connecting to grief and everything. But so thank you so much for sharing that story.
Anytime. I mean, exit and loss events are the biggest in our lives. And I mean, since I would say since 19 and my experiencing my father's death at that age, that really, well, we'll get into that later, but that was a pivotal experience in my awakening. But
Yeah.
first the plane. I mean,
Oh my God. It's just people are like, hanging, are they going to save the place?
that's what's called a cliffhanger. We want to keep them listening. So, no. Well, actually, I spoiled it. He died. So, he's, he didn't come back from that.
All right, so people, picture this, okay? It is March 15th, 2020, and I walk into this plane and I see this freaking gorgeous blonde human walking in the plane with me. And I keep staring at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna think I have a huge crush on her, which I do, by the way. And so we kept staring at each other. And I finally figured out, like in my head, because I've seen you came to our little sweet Cow Bay Hall. And that was years ago. I think it was like 5, 6 years ago. And
Yes.
now so it's March 15th, and everybody's like, it's so like heightened awareness of like basically
Mm-hmm.
like everybody is coming back home. Like it's March 15th and
Yeah.
everything closed on March 16th. And then I forget how we started talking or something, but like seriously, it was 5 minutes. Like I think it was 5 minutes, and we managed to like
We figured it
strike a
out.
conversation, start following each other on social media.
Yes.
We were like,
Yeah.
we were like BFFs. Or they're like,
Yeah. I did feel a kindred connection right away. I was like, I can't exactly place it at this second, but I know this. I know this woman, and she's powerful. She's got this energy, and you were just. I mean, you have a very magnetic field. You have a very strong, positive energy around you, and that was refreshing. Like that was refreshing after a long trip from Europe. You were coming from, was it India?
yeah. So I mean, never mind magnetic. Like never mind. I just been back from India.
Yeah, like totally exhausted. I bet. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I don't know about you, but I was wired at the same
mhm.
time. Like, when you're so tired, but you can't really sleep. And it was just such a wild, you really made like this whole trip, like just come alive. And so tell us what happened. Like you had a whole European tour and you couldn't do it.
Well, yeah, we actually were very fortunate to get halfway through it, but
Okay.
we were in Germany, and we had to cancel the UK and the Polish portions of that tour. So, what 30 dates had to be canceled, and we had already done about
Oh,
that. So,
yeah.
yeah, that was you're in you. I think a lot of people who I think everybody was in shock, but and as a business owner, and I really had to like let go of that, what I perceived at the time could be a loss, and then immediately shift to, and this comes from, I think, a little bit of my upbringing. Well, this is going to be an adventure, and just go
Yeah.
with it, like
Yeah.
go with it. There's nothing you can do. Ultimate, exercise, and not, I guess, surrendering and not having control over, and then just being turning to gratitude again. It's going to bring us full circle. Another
Yeah.
Oprah saying,
Yeah.
Oprah cliche. Just being grateful to be back in Canada and
Yeah.
made it home safe,
Yeah.
almost at that point. And yeah. So, but it was
Yeah,
really
what a wild, like, we were both on that plane, and it was such I never like, there was so many unknowns, like, I knew I was gonna have to quarantine from my family, and
Mhm.
I knew you knew, like, we all knew we were gonna have to, like, spend these 2 weeks, like, basically,
Yeah.
like, after,
Hmm.
like, traveling the world,
Yeah.
and, like, it was so But anyways, like I couldn't believe how much in that time, like we were like, yeah, so the
Yeah.
connection was like, wow.
And and remember, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but we were kind of advised not to wear masks. And I don't know if it's because they were saving them all for the healthcare workers, but
Yeah.
I think there was this word going around that it wasn't going to do any good. And so I think on some part of our plane ride, we were wearing a mask, and then we, threw that out because it was gross for the next flight, and then we were out of masks. And that's just how everybody. We just all were like, oh, okay, well, they're not going to do any good. So anyway.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah, I
really nice to
know.
see you, and that's the last time we saw each other, and here we are.
I know.
We
The last
made
time we saw
it.
each other, we made it, and I knew right there and then, I was like, I need to have you on the podcast because you embody like everything that like I just talk about, like converse all the time, like power and body and beauty and voice
Oh,
and the art. And before we go into our subjects, the art that awakens, I just and you started talking a bit about it, but I'd love to know your story, as a musician,
mhm.
obviously, and singer, but like, just like, personally, like where you grow up. And at She Quest, we call it my she story. So, and you started talking a little about your dad, but like defining moment that like basically got you where you are today. And I know it's so loaded, but
No,
maybe, yeah, I'll
it's
just leave you
interesting. Well, it's interesting for everyone to figure that out, I think, and I didn't wanna think about it for so long, but, I've had time. I'm in my 40s now, and so I've, gone through um, the times where I thought, "Well, should I" I was just curious, like, how did I end up like this? Why am I the way I am, and why do I struggle with certain things, and some things come easy. And I think a lot of it does go back to your she quest and the first, the earlier parts of your life. And growing up, I mean, it was clear in my family that art was something, to admire. My father and both my parents really loved music, and theater was important. We always went as a family to the Fredericton Playhouse. I grew up in New Brunswick. I was born in Florida and grew up in New Brunswick, Fredericton, and then Rothsay, and later Grand Falls, New Brunswick, before moving to Halifax to go to university. And But when I was quite young, my dad loved music, and he was an entrepreneur, not an artist per se, but he was very creative, I think, in that he had the ability to make something out of nothing. And he actually sold stamps. He sold collectibles to people around the world, and ran a small business out of our home. And my mother was a stay-at-home mother until when I was about 11. It was sort of a build-up, but my parents split. My dad actually disappeared, and he left us. But it was at the time, it wasn't pitched as that, and that was I'd say a crisis in our family for sure. And there were other things going on at the time that weren't really talked about. Um, my brother Stefan was struggling. He moved out of the house, but he was struggling with addiction and mental illness. Of course, undiagnosed. Nobody talked about these things, and there was just definitely the division, the separation of our family, and my mother having to pick up the pieces and start anew. And she took my brother Alexander and I to Grand Falls, New Brunswick, and she did just that. She picked up the pieces, and then there was just, I guess, another 6 years of, um, art wasn't, music wasn't really a big part of our lives. And I think I was just very sort of depressed, but focused on school and friendships, and became a bit of a jock, and just really tried to do well at school. That's where I felt most comfortable, and I like to make people laugh, and participate in whatever I could at school, and that's where I felt best, I suppose. And we spent summers with my dad, and he was in hiding in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. So we weren't allowed to tell anybody where we were going. It was sort of this weird story where he told us there was a warrant for his arrest, which was I later found out was a lie. And yeah, and he just it was just a sort of a I didn't really understand I didn't understand a lot of things, I suppose, at the time in our family and our
Mm,
relationships, and 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 then when I graduated from high school, went to university, and after my first year of university, my father and I we had a bit of a falling out a few years before, and I stopped going to visit him, and but he announced that he told me he had was diagnosed with cancer, and he had maybe 4 months to live, and thought he would live for the rest, like 10 years, without treatment or anything. And it was 4 months, and he passed away. And we had a very complicated relationship, but I certainly idolized him growing up. But he was also my abuser at a young age,
mm,
and I didn't that was something I definitely pushed away and only came to talk about with my family, I'd say in the last decade. And it was,
mm,
very, very, well, it wasn't easy. It's gotten easier to talk about, but all these things, I think, added to why did I turn to music and songwriting. And I ended up getting a job after my father died. I quit university because I was just all I was doing was drinking and shopping. And
mm,
I knew I had this always had this in me that I wanted to be healthy and strong. And so I knew I had to stop that cycle of nothingness and self-destruction. And so I quit university and I moved to Austin, Texas, and that's where I got my first job as a nanny and lived with the Oswald family. And that was, I think, the beginning of what I call, heading on my path with heart and figuring out what that would be. That's
mm.
that's a long story.
I could sing to you just all day, Christina. For those of you who know me, know that I am obsessed with flowers, but also essential oils. I was flipping out, so excited when I came aware of Lightwater Essential Oil Blend Company right here in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. The bottle is so pretty, and there's so many ways to use each blend. From the energetics of chakra work, meditation, or daily uses in headache relief, deeper sleep support, or to tap into a creative space. There's so much to explore and a blend for everyone. My current faves are the Create and Power Blend, but my house will definitely smell of winter woods during the holidays. Light Water is offering the Chiquest community a whopping 20% discount on all regular priced items. Go to Instagram or their website, lightwatereo.ca. That's lightwatereo.ca, and use SHE at checkout for a 20% discount. Again, that's capital CHE to explore these blends yourself. Happy holidays! Because I've interviewed a lot of women, I often
Mhm.
find that their story, um, like where there is pain and
Mhm.
trauma, which you've talked to us about like
Mhm.
just so much here that we could debunk and just
Yeah.
make one podcast with.
I know. I know.
And I love just how open you are, and I really appreciate that. And do you feel you're going to Texas? Like in a way, I see that as like your Shequest in a way,
Yes.
that stem from, the pain that you were in and just like trying to, figure it out. And there's
Yeah.
so much awareness, like to think you were like, oh my God, my first year in university, like I was a mess, to think you were like, okay, like this is like I'm shopping, drinking, like this is
Yeah.
obviously, not a good habit. And then you were
Yeah.
like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to Texas, and that it stemmed from that. Do you know
Well,
what I'm saying?
oh, I
Yeah,
do. Well, it's
yeah.
interesting because the first year, I think, I mean, I like a lot of people at that age. My first year at university was a total, I would say, a total blast. And I remember actually there was, I think now that the signs that there were disconnects between my family was that I largely ignored them. I mean,
Mm,
unless I needed them, I was so happy just being this other unconsciously living person that was just having a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And then after my father died, it brought up, so I kind of tried to continue living that type of life. Something changed in me though, and I was really depressed. I mean, um I was just, that's what it was. I mean, I cried every day. I hid it from everybody. I did get up, it was like walking depression. I could get up and go to some of my classes, but then I would go back and just nap and cry, and then go out in the evening and or to shop, and I was just miserable. And I think I recognized that. I think I went to my first counseling session at that point, and I just knew this couldn't continue this way. And then going to Austin, or going anywhere, ended up being Austin. I didn't go there because I knew it was a live music capital of the world. I learned that once I arrived. And so
Mm.
I kind of want to believe it was the universe helping me out a little. Like,
I love that. I love that you didn't know. I love it.
and I mean, I knew I liked singing, and my friends had, encouraged me to sing, and I had no songs of my own. I didn't play guitar. So that wasn't my ambition really going there. It was this, like, I need to get out of here, and I needed to get away from everybody and everything, and I needed time to myself alone,
Mhm.
time to do maybe nothing, time to explore, time to take some art classes, time to go out and listen to live music. That was like a whole new thing, to hear somebody singing their story, authentic story, like their own voice with just an acoustic guitar on stage right in front of me. I didn't grow up with that. And it just became this thing that I thought, oh, I really want to do that.
Like, hold up. So
Mm,
you
mm,
had never, like, are you telling me that
hmm
the
hmm
like, you learned guitar in your 20s?
Yeah, I had taken piano as a kid, and I remember, trying to write my own songs, and at a very young, like 7, 8, 9, and then quitting. And I never got to the point where I was singing or writing my own songs. And then fast forward to, Austin, Texas, 1920. I bought an acoustic guitar after my first summer in Austin. Went to Germany as a nanny. I got another job there, and then in that job, I had some time. I was teaching myself acoustic guitar.
Wow, amazing.
I mean, very basic stuff, right? But and then spent that year writing my first songs, and then went back to Texas for another 3.5 years after that. After that time in Germany, so I mean, something happened in Germany too, where again, the universe helping me out a little. I was just going out totally open, trying new things, but always trusting my gut, trusting this intuition. Like, I want to go dancing. I want to talk to that person.
Mm.
But I always was very, like, eyes wide open, cautious. I didn't want to be reckless. But I wanted to try new things and have fun. I feel like I picked friends that I felt safe with. And, I had some good spider senses, and I think that came from my upbringing too, and my experience with my father. And um, so I was, felt I was protected and in good company. But I met some producers at this club I used to go dancing in Germany, and they happened to live in the little neighborhood in Salzgitter, Germany, where I was working, and just up the street, ridiculously coincidental. And they gave me my first kind of gig as a studio musician, singing their pop songs for them. And I fell in love with that, being in the studio and just singing. I didn't care that they were my songs at the time. And so that gave me a little more confidence to go back to Austin and try this singing thing, and maybe get up and do some open mics and whatnot.
Wow, just connecting the dots.
Yeah, and I knew, and I think this kind of goes back to what you're getting at earlier with, like, what does it do to a person when you start to live your authentic life, and the healing, the connection. I really do think it saved my life. As soon as I decided I wanted to be a singer and sing my own songs, I couldn't do those and work jobs to pay the bills. I couldn't do those things that were self-destructive. I couldn't, I mean, at the time I was still drinking a little bit, but, like, I couldn't do that very much. I couldn't get really into drugs. I had good people around me, and I was always conscious that I didn't want to disappoint them. And also, I was working with kids in a lot in Austin
Mhm.
and in Germany over the years, and I I didn't want them to pick up on any bad habits that I maybe, I just I did feel a sense of responsibility. Like I got to be healthy and strong, and set a good example. I don't want to have this old dark private life, and at the simultaneously my brother was still struggling with addiction, and I knew, that really hurt not only him but obviously, but it hurt me. And so there was that on my mind too, like I need to, this is like this music and doing what I feel like I'm meant to be doing and staying healthy. Like I need to keep striving for this. Like this matters. I don't know why, but I just got to keep trying for this,
I love it so much, and it's like you just followed your gut. It was like kind of like one gut feeling after the other. I like so you started awakening to your self expression really when you went to Texas.
I think so. Yeah. That would have
It's as if
been,
like you had to extrapolate yourself from like kind of your family kind of nucleus and like
well, yeah, my family and my friends, and not because I didn't love them, but
no.
I was very self-conscious. It's easier to perform and try new things like that are so vulnerable as
Yeah.
songwriting, because I still write about my relationships and sort out that stuff in my songs. And at the time, I mean, I hadn't written anything yet, and I had a whole family history to delve into, and
Yeah.
early, relationships. And
I had a lot of content. Yeah.
I wasn't comfortable, like, the idea of sharing that with people that I grew up with or my family really scared me. And so it was scary enough. I mean, talk about stage fright and nerves, and excitement, but no confidence. And that I feel I had to get away to really, start putting myself out there and trying these things. And then, I mean, I think that's still something that sometimes now we will go on tours to work out, gain confidence, work out the kinks, and try material and see what the response is before we, play for the hometown crowd kind of thing. But
Now I'm totally just curious. I'm taking you
yeah.
off script a
Yeah,
little, but
do.
I think you're like that kind of person, anyways. I'm curious how you start. Like, how does a song start for you? Like, I
Mhm.
know, and by the way, I totally get what you mean about like I mean, it's probably not the same thing, but I think it's always easier for me to teach to strangers. Like,
Mhm.
I just kick myself sometimes. Like, I'm always nervous teaching
Mhm.
yoga before, like, even to this day. I mean, maybe not as much, but sometimes I'll teach like to hundreds of people, and I'm less nervous because nobody
Yeah.
knows me.
Yeah.
And like, if I were to teach my like closest like family members or even sometimes my closest students now that have come to know
Mhm.
me, and it's such an interesting phenomenon also because I think I can like just say my old jokes and they'll find it funny for the first
Exactly.
time.
I do like that about playing for new crowds. Yeah. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it might have something to do with, and maybe I can only say this for myself, like growing up, and it just seems like your family is the most critical, and growing up with two brothers poking fun at everything you do when you think it's cool, and then they make fun of you, or maybe if you were bullied, and or you but it was within your family, and you kind of start to associate like these vulnerable moments, or the chance to get like there, that's always on your mind, that what if I'm made to feel like
Yeah.
my friends and family or people on the playground. But when it's just completely new and you can walk away from it, new audience, new people, you could walk away, you never maybe have to see them again. Sometimes that doesn't come into play.
Yeah.
I guess. So it is a psychological battle. And once you can get over that, yeah, there's more of, I think, a freedom and liberation. That I've only started to like, I mean, I get comfortable with, like with my own mother being in the audience. I love it now, and she actually loves it, and we kind of make a a thing out of it. Sometimes I point her out. I try to pitch her off to some single guy in the audience, and but I find that I found a way to connect with her, and sometimes even at my shows in ways that I can't, when we're sitting down in front of the television set or having a meal. So that's kind of neat. But my first time she came to, actually, I was in a cover band in high school, and I just sang the English songs, and it was a French band called Head Rush. Anyway, my mom, I didn't want her to come to the show. I wasn't comfortable with that. And my friend's mom snuck her in, and I gave her the finger from the stage. I mean, what kind of, not very nice, I realize, but the point is, I knew that I wouldn't feel comfortable if I knew she was in the audience at that time, when I was a teenager. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God, it is a vulnerable thing to like be up there. I feel that way with painting too. Like
Mhm.
it's so hard to show a painting, like
Mm.
it is so hard to it's like you're freaking naked in front of everyone.
Yeah, I bet.
And I always think like a painting is not done until you show it, just kind of
Mhm.
like a song is not done until you sing it to the audience. Like for me, that kind of like kind of ends the creative,
Yeah.
cycle. But and to take you on that path, I'm just really curious
Yeah.
how songs come to you. Like you've talked about like, kind of digging in that kind of bank of your,
Sure.
your memories or your past and whatnot. But I'm just curious how songs come to you. Like, is it like a vision or a
Mm.
whisper, or like, I'm just really
Ah.
curious about that. If you believe in like a muse or like what's up, Christina?
Yeah. Okay, what's up? Okay, so it's been about 2 decades now since I've been, like, learning how to songwrite and trying to be open at more open at different times. So the answer to that question, it's not super simple, but it comes in all different forms. So
Yeah.
a couple years ago, for example, I have a new song that's called "Stay with Me," and the main melody and line in that song, it came as a vision in a dream. It was just so strong and powerful that enough. This doesn't happen often for me, but it made me obsess over it for the next day, come up with, fill out the song. And let's say it was an easy song to write. It's actually, it did come like within a couple of days that the song was pretty much finished, the lyrics and the main melody and whatnot. No, we haven't fully produced it yet. We have a demo for it years later, but um, so that kind of little jewel gem came in a dream, and it in the dream, oftentimes, like even if I'm just writing songs, there's a like in my mind's eye, I'm picturing like almost like watching a music video, like a
Mm.
Eurythmics video or something, um, and that doesn't necessarily mean it ends up being the music video, but it's like it helps me sometimes. Just it's like daydreaming to finish a song sometimes. So I might have
Oh,
this jewel of a gem of a melody or a line. I don't know what the song's even about. I may not know for years. I may not know for a decade. It can change. And other times it feels like, I won't say like hard work, because I kind of, my approach is, especially now during this time where we're home so much, I've been able to have a routine and have my morning writing. I read about writers. I read writing exercises. I just write, and it's not, most of it's totally boring and not usable, but it's just it's really just writing in
yeah.
a journal, object writing. I playing with words, and then I will go back and mine for like months, years later, for little bits that spark something. Sometimes the lyrics, the words, the combination sparks a melody or a rhythm. Sometimes a rhythm from a song, like a song that I like on the radio, or I don't know, a Tom Petty and Heartbreaker song or something, sparks an entirely different rhythm, and then a melody or an idea, and then off you go with that into, what do I want to say? I like this line, "Stay with me." What's this going to be about? And at the time, it could be about wanting somebody to stay with you in a relationship, and then 2 years later, it could be about wanting to save the planet. You know, I mean,
I love that you say, I love, love, love that you said, "And off you go."
off
I
you
love
go.
that, like, take it and, like, off you go. Because like, I'm the
Yeah.
same, like, I'll look like, it's ridiculous, like, I'll see, like, a color, like, it's just a color combo in, like, a magazine, I, like, rip that and off I go, you know, and I won't, and maybe I won't even use those colors, but it's, like, that spark that
Yes.
like just
Yeah.
everything, and then if I don't make it, it's like I die a little inside, like
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and do you ever think sometimes, like, I sometimes mourn the days where I wasn't open and didn't show up to sit and write, or didn't sit around with my guitar for even 5 minutes. Like, I think people think one of the things that stops people from creating art and then, experiencing its healing power is they think I don't have time. And honestly, I get it, but because I also have those thoughts, and it's kept me sometimes from creating or just showing up to the page and or my guitar or piano. And but I can tell you the stuff you can accomplish in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, like whatever you've got over time, and it's so powerful. It really adds up.
It really does. It really does. That's what that's what I teach, like, that it's, like, small daily acts of bravery, like,
Hmm.
5 minutes a day. Everybody has freaking 5 minutes, like, you
Yeah.
can be on the toilet and
Yeah.
create something.
Yeah, put like a pencil and paper next to the toilet. Bring your phone in there. Bring your phone in and your voice memos. That's the other thing. I mean, I don't know if you use this for just collecting ideas. Even if it just comes to you, and because if I don't go and write it down, it will disappear. And I'm like, what the happened? What happened to that? Does that happen to you?
Oh my god, yes, and, like, I'm so mad, like, I'm so
Yeah.
mad, and sometimes, like, I'll wake up, like, I'll just like, my eyes are open and it's, like, 3 a.m. That's happened to me repeatedly, like,
Yeah.
3 or sometimes 3:30 a.m., and I have, like, this great idea in my head, and it's, like, a matter of, like, you're so tired, and then you're
Mhm.
like, "Can I just"
Yeah.
and then you wake up in the morning, you're like, "Oh,
Oh,
no."
it's gone. Or I tell myself, I'm going to remember this. How could I not? It's such a great idea.
A lot of my things come driving,
Yes.
and then, like, I can't stop, I can't put it in the notes on the phone because I don't wanna use
Yeah,
my phone when I'm driving, and then
I
and then
know.
and then I it's the most frustrating thing, so it's like, put it down. I was just reading this book actually, and she was like, "Use Post-its,"
Yeah.
and it's something that I've been doing even for yoga class, like, something like, I was like, "Oh my god, this cue is just so I'll
Yeah.
write the cue down," and there's, like, now I have, like, Post-its, like, a bit everywhere in my house, it seems, but that is such a great advice to just, like, don't, off you go. I think that's gonna be the
Yeah.
title of our podcast, "Off you
Yeah. Off
go."
you go.
I wanna ask you this question,
Yeah.
and it's such an important question to me. It's a bit loaded, but I wanna know why it's so important for you to make art.
Yeah. I mean, this ties deeply to my health. I really value overall health, mental and physical, which are one and the same. So the pursuit of art and living a creative life, to me, that represents, like, I value my health, my well-being, but it's also really, really tied into the relationships and how highly I value all of my relationships. My Of course, with my husband, my family, which I think wasn't always, I think we were in many ways very broken. Not to say we didn't have great times and love each other, but um, there's been shift in that, especially after losing my brother Stefan to an overdose in 2013, um, and my working relationships, which I hold very precious. Like, um, I I want it all to be healthy. Art, it just keeps me healthy and happy, and I don't create art when I'm not healthy and happy. So, yeah, it just makes sense to me. And I guess there's other, in recent, I guess the last decade or so, but maybe even just the last 5 years, I realized that maybe I needed songs to find my own voice, and I still need to figure out what's important to me, dissect
Mm.
relationships. It really is like I do feel so grateful for this opportunity to have a voice in this way, because I guess going back to being a little girl and knowing what it feels like to really be shut down by the people that you love the most, cherish the most, look up to, idolize, and just that all, just be feeling ultimately not believed or heard. That's such a crushing thing. And man, what a sacred space for an artist to be able to have the time to say exactly what they need to want to say. Rewrite your story, change, evolve, all in this space, like, and then to be able to present that. And however it's perceived, by others and absorbed is, I guess, I guess maybe it ties into that cliche of like everybody wants to be heard. But for me, I just really love the act of like discovering, oh, this resonates with me, this line, what I've just figured out how to say, and so often we talk and we don't. Most of my life has been like blabbing, and then sometimes you hear yourself back and you're like, oh my goodness, that's not really my intention. Wow, I I didn't think about it before I said it. I didn't even know how I felt. So art is a way to figure out how we feel and then
Mm.
share that with the world. And I think that helps other people too, who maybe don't songwrite or paint or sculpt, for whatever reasons, but it helps other people, in their own, I guess, pursuit to figure out.
Hey, so in case you didn't know already, my name is Estelle, and I'm a Quebec born, Nova Scotia living yoga teacher, creative mentor, visual artist, author, and grief activist. You can visit my work and offerings at estellethompson.com. That's ESTELLETHOMSOM.com. And subscribe if you like this conversation and it's helping you, it has an impact on your life. Please subscribe, give Chic West Podcast a 5-star review, and the best thing you can do is just take it a screenshot as you're listening to it and post it on your Facebook or Instagram story, and it just really helps me get some traction, momentum, and share with others what you love, what you're listening to, and it's helping you, because it might just help someone else. Thanks so much. Bye. Merci. Mwah. You were talking, I was like, oh my goodness, like making music and like singing music helps you to be a better listener.
Uh-huh.
It's like almost the other way around, if when you exercise your voice, you actually begin to listen more. Like, let's say you were talking about like dissecting relationships,
Hmm.
like really like how much art, like, and then that way, that's why it helps you like awaken and
Mm.
like rise out of that. And you were talking to us about like retelling your story and like, okay, this is not mine anymore, and that's what I love too about art. It's like, almost you're just like a channel for like things to come in and out of you. And then there's so much, you're so kindred to me, Christina. Like seriously, like, no, but the whole time you're speaking, I'm like, I feel that way too, like about like painting and also like teaching yoga, how like you just become this like a channel. And
Hmm.
like, I just, and like just the privilege, like I always say, it's such the privilege of a lifetime, like to think your song is being played in a house at Christmas, like to
Hmm.
think like or live with like your art, like that. When I think
Yeah.
about people, like it makes me want to weep, like to think like a painting should be in somebody's home that they live with. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like that for me, it's like, wow, the privilege of that I can add like colors or
Yeah.
expression or yeah, like just like put words to
Hmm.
people's like so many songs for me, I was like, oh my God, that's what I just didn't know I was
Hmm.
feeling like that.
Yeah, and that's what music always did for me growing up, and I think we turned to it because we don't have when I didn't write songs and I watched music videos, and it made me feel like sometimes I would imagine I was that maybe that's narcissistic, but that rock star, or but singing those words, that I was like, I feel a connection here, and I want to do that thing. It's so powerful, and soothing. I mean, the act of singing itself, like doing yoga too. I'm sure it's like there's so much focus on the breath, or not focus,
Singing
but
is yoga. Singing is like breathing. Singing is yoga.
yeah, exactly. But it's funny. I learned recently. I'm not shifting entirely the topic, but I'm digressing. But I learned recently. I was reading a book by Jennifer Hamady, I believe, and it's on performing and singing. And one thing she said that was so liberating was like, we don't have to think to breathe. So stop thinking about breathing when you're singing and just sing. Like, just it'll come. Like, I mean, we do have to practice, and over time you get confidence and stronger. But I think I was held back for a long time because I was so focused on thinking about how I was breathing and standing and all this, and it was just distracting. And then realizing that I had it in me to do that. It was just a little psychological glitch I had to get over, and it's really helped in recent years. But going back to growing up, I remember that just, when I was struggling with anxiety and depression, and singing was something that really soothed me. And I'd go into a corner and sing into the corner so I could hear, and it would resonate. And it was like a mantra, like, it was just so comforting, you know, as later on going to hear live music and not, being in a corner listening to myself singing, but hearing somebody else, and being in the receiving end of that was a similar experience. But nothing beats, yeah, like, actually, I think for me, singing is probably the time when I'm probably, breathing in the most healthy fashion. Like, we hold our breath so often as we're sitting in front of the computer and or just worrying about stuff. And I can't do that when I'm singing and doing a show. I have to be present. I have to be in that hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I have to be there with people and thinking about them and singing my heart out. And it's, again, going back to, it's such a healthy, healing, being present
Mhm.
experience that, yeah, just, I've kind of, you grow addicted to that, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, having witnessed you, like, you are in your element when you are on stage. Like, you're just so, and with the audience too. Like, I mean, I know the venue I saw you at, the Cabe Hall, is like so small and like intimate, but and just, oh my
I
goodness,
love
your stories. And you're so, you see, I peed my pants about like 3 times when I watched
Oh,
it
I
because you're
love
so
making people pee pants. Pee your pants.
funny. Okay,
Off we go.
I want to switch gear a little bit only because I love to get practical
Mm,
on the podcast, because I feel a lot of times, what I speak about is so kind of abstract and
mhm,
ethereal,
mhm,
and I'd love to know, like, if somebody would come up to you,
mhm.
Christina, and be like, I really want to start, you know, writing my own songs, or I really want to start singing, or I just want, like, start a relationship with, expressing myself. Like,
Yeah,
would you have any just like maybe things that you do that would just kind of, we've been using that word spark,
yeah,
that would just like kind of nudge that for somebody that like feels that's completely dormant for them.
yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, it was when Kim Oswald gave me The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron when I was 19.
Oh,
So, yeah.
so cute,
You
so
see
good.
you see that book connects with so many people. So, that gave me, I mean, it's an incredible book. I haven't read it in a long, long time, but I can always go back to it. And but it got me on the path of journaling, morning pages, artist dates, making time for it, making new habits, getting a routine. I'm big on routine. Not everybody is, and I'm not perfect. I have days where I skip. The point is, you get back to it as soon as you can. And it can take you years to figure out what's going to work for you. So, but read about other writers, other artists that you admire. Get the artist's way. I'd say start there, and set aside a time every day first thing if you can, but any time is fine. But for me, it's I set my alarm for 6:45, 7 a.m. now, and that's not like some people get up way earlier than that. Parents, you know, I'm fortunate that I have a little bit of like my time is pretty much my own right now, and so yes, set aside that time and start doing it. Like action has it's such so cliche, but action has such power. And for me, when I was starting with the songwriting, my first step was apart from journaling and reading about other writers and the creative process, I bought a guitar. So buy an instrument, play around with that. You don't have to be any good. And then a year later, it was getting up and doing my first open mic and then doing a lot of them every week for beer and spaghetti, or nothing. And it just step by step, and I certainly didn't start out with career goals. It was just, and I often go back to that. What is it about this thing that you just loved and needed to do?
Mhm.
When the business gets overwhelming and I feel down about certain things that I maybe were turned down for or whatever, I just kind of go back to you love and need to songwrite. You're an artist at heart. So just get back to that and it'll be, you'll that's enough. That is enough.
Yeah,
um
I love that, and there's something you said too, I just wanna point out for a minute, about feeling narcissistic sometimes,
mm,
like, I know that feeling so well, but at the same time, like, lately, it's really helped me, like, even, like, not just in painting, but, like, in yoga too, like, I keep asking myself, "Okay, why do I love posting pictures of myself in, like,
uh-huh,
a yoga
uh,
pose?" Like, that's
yeah.
so, like, am I, like, just full of myself? And then it's like, no, I actually love the process,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
I'm just saying that because I feel I love that you said that last thing. It's like when, sometimes we veer off, like things get super discouraging and
Yeah,
we feel in the slump and like we have to adjust to all these changes like all the freaking time.
yeah,
And then you just have to go back to, okay, no, but what do I love?
yeah,
Like I love doing this. And like to remind yourself that no, like I love doing that, And I think that's where the narcissistic come because it's like, oh my God, because that's where the spark stems as well. Like just keep doing what you love and keep that close to your soul, you
yeah.
know?
That's a bad habit of mine to bring that in, I suppose, like, to say it out loud because I think and maybe it's also as women, like, growing up, don't be too proud, don't
Yes.
flaunt this or that. I mean, we that's a burden we carry and we need to work on, but, I mean, if the Eurythmics had thought, "Well, I can't do that, it'll be narcissistic," or, "Well, they would never have made the cool video that made me wanna go." I mean, so we're also you and I we're businesswomen, and we have to promote our businesses, and we and part of that is like we're sharing what we do and what we love, so I mean, in it's not about narcissism, obviously, and of course, our egos are at play, and in some of what we do, but I think our intentions, if your intentions are there and pure and based in, I suppose, love and wanting to, there's like a positive intention there, then that's really the biggest thing, the most important thing when you're deciding, do I post this selfie of myself or not? Is it going to make somebody smile, happy? Like I love doing goofy self promo videos that are just
Oh
homemade
my
and
God, I love them. Everybody go follow Christina Martin on Instagram. Those are
well,
amazing. They're
they're sweet.
incredible.
But they're fun. They're fun to do, and it is a form of self expression. And we talk about when I read all the books I've read about creative writing, and basically say, and I like this idea that we need more stories. Like the stories have healing power. I'm saying all the cliches, but it's true. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. it's
Yeah, yeah.
so find your routine, make your routine, and it might take some time, but you'll get there. And I think the payoff, it's short term and long term. Like some days, some weeks, you're like, when is it going to turn for me? Like, and then it does. And I think your practice has a lot to do with that. As you already know this. Like you're living it, living the dream.
Uh, well, and then I'm sure you could speak to this as well. Like, I do what I love and it's still hard.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. No one
you
said it'd
know,
be easy, and
no.
I don't think, I mean, from what I've experienced, it's not supposed to be. It's hard, 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 and then you get like maybe a day or a week of oh my goodness, thank
Yeah.
goodness, like wow, and it's I enjoyed the work even though it was hard, but now it just okay. And then it's that feeling's gone again, but you have over time these moments to go back and remind yourself. Remember when that happened? Well, it was because I did the thing that I felt I was supposed to do. And then you have more faith that okay, it's gonna work out. I just need to stick to this. And if it's really not working for you, you gotta shake things up and go for a walk, plant a tree.
Yeah. Plant a tree. I love it. Plant a tree. And before I go into the rapid fire, I want to know, I mean, does writing songs ground you, or like, do you have, so I love asking this to women, like what they do to ground themselves, body, mind,
Yeah.
soul. Like, is there something you do every day, or what's kind of like your go-to to just like come back to earth? I mean, planting
Yeah.
trees sounds like it'd be very grounding.
It's grounding. Of course, it has to be the right season, but yeah. Well, I've gotten into the practice, and again, I sometimes skip, but I really try to do some meditation first thing in the morning, not just 20 minutes, and then I try to do my writing, and I also singing at some point in the day or every couple days or rehearsing. Um, those are the things that I think if I've done those things and taken care of my work, like my business stuff, I feel okay, job's well done. And I mean, actually, maybe I'm too doing too much here. Like, but for me, it's a kind of a long list. It's like, have I exercised? Because that grounds me. Have I meditated? Have I written? Have I sang at all? Have I, tried a new song, worked, chipped away at a new song, and then taken care of my business responsibilities? So I don't know
Mhm.
if that list is too long. It's, I do take
But that works for you, right?
that
So,
makes me feel like
yeah.
I've done my job, and it's when I say that, like it's brought me it makes me feel like like my work has purpose and meaning, so I feel like I
Mhm.
lived a meaningful day. And but mixed in with that, right? There's also like, have I connected with a friend? Have I celebrated a friend on my social media?
Mm.
Like it's more complicated, but more involved, I suppose. But I think the meditation, practicing prayer, and again, I'm saying this as a non-religious person, and for me, writing and having time for those is really, yeah,
Mhm.
that and if I don't, I feel wild and outside
Yeah.
myself. It's not, it's not
And
comfortable.
yeah, and to go back to the artist way, like I think like that book was given to me by a voice teacher, because I don't know if you noticed, I went to theater school like 20 years ago to sing. She gave me that book, in
Wow.
1999, and
Hey, that's when I
like,
got the book.
what?
That's when I got the book,
No
1999.
way.
Yeah, you and me.
No way.
Share
Yeah.
the path.
And like, it was the first, my mind was blown because it was the first time somebody had said, like, your writing practice, your writing songs, your paintings,
Yeah.
it's a spiritual act, like, it's spiritual to do that. And I
Yeah.
was like, what? What do
Yeah.
you mean? I was like, yeah. And I think once you get that, it's like, sure, there's like traditional meditation, like the sitting practice of it, but
Mhm.
writing a song can be as, or writing just in general, can be as, have that contemplative kind of
Mhm.
element to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah.
wild that we both started the artist's way in 1999. Here we are.
Do, 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 do,
Do,
do.
do,
We have
do.
so much in common. And also a side note too, like I feel like the community, listening to this, like whilst I think Christina and I've made careers out of our art, like I don't think that's a prerequisite, like I feel a
Yeah,
lot of
no.
people, like that maybe stops people from, making art, it's like there needs to be like, oh, I need to be published, or I need to
Yeah.
be, and I'm just like, no, no, no,
Uh-uh.
no.
No, and it can be for your family, or if you don't, if you maybe it can be just for you. It could be for your
Yeah,
kids. It can be for your community. It can, yeah. But I mean, I know about myself, and I get this from my father probably, but I mean, I'm an entrepreneur at heart as well, and find
yeah,
creative outlets within my business, and very. I was for years, and I guess it's still am, hungry to make it work, because I don't want to do. I didn't. I worked other jobs. I enjoyed them but I'm an all-in-one person. 100%. I want to give,
yeah,
and I didn't have anything for my art at the end of the day when I worked other jobs, and that made me unhappy. And so I decided, what if I put 100% into my music career? I just curious, and then I
mm,
got good at, and finding out where there were opportunities for funding. And then I got obsessed with working with other creators, because that's also the
mm,
fun thing about what we do, is working with people in the industry, designers, publicists and other musicians. And I mean, the list is endless of collaborations you can have. And so, yeah, but it doesn't have to be a full-time gig. It could
no,
be just baby steps. That's what it was for all
yeah,
of us.
exactly. Oh, I love talking to you so much. Okay, I have a
Mhm.
few like rapid fire questions to end our conversation with. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'll try to be rapid.
Favorite mantra?
Gum Ganapataye Namaha.
That's a good one.
It's in what
Favorite flower?
I don't have one. I don't have any favorite flower. None.
That's fair. That's fair. How about a favorite book? Well, I think I know which one
I'm just
it
gonna
is.
say The Artist's Way. But
Okay.
I recently, Jeff Tweedy's book for songwriters, write how to write one song, is really great as well. Yeah.
Cool. We'll put that in the show notes. We'll make sure to put that on. How
Yeah.
about, are you like a podcast listener? Do you listen to podcasts?
Yes, I do. Ear Hustle is one that I was recently turned on to, as I'm working on developing a podcast for maybe next year. I hate to commit,
Cool.
but somebody turned me on to Ear Hustle. It's about life in prison, and it's very well produced. I love the just the format for that one. Yeah.
Cool. I have to check it out. I haven't heard of that one.
Hmm.
And how about just a favorite treat? I mean, it can be food, but it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be.
Oh, it doesn't have to be food. Well, okay, but I will. I'll say food. Edamame at night with salt and earth balance. And or I mean, last night I had just plain potato chips. Yeah.
Yum. Chips. Going to basics. Yum.
Yeah.
I want to know, and the last question, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to keep you
You
with
don't ever
me.
have to leave me. Well, I'll come back. I'll come back whatever you want to talk about. If I do a podcast, I'll have you on mine, and then we'll just keep making podcasts so that we can keep talking to each other.
We'll just
And
do that. Let's
we could go for a walk sometime. Well,
good. My last question, it has changed over the years, but since the whole, since the pandemic, I guess since I've been back on the plane with you on our
yeah.
last plane ride, where we don't know when our next plane ride is going to be ever.
No.
Um, but I want, like, it made me think of, it's almost like, the past months, I don't know if you felt like that, but it's like almost a new world that we're creating for like women and for, I don't know, like for humankind in like general. And I want to know, and the last question I'm asking now, it's like, what do you wish for, women to know about what we've talked about, like about this transformative, power of art, and about this new world in a way that we're creating?
I think we all have to have, faith in the unknown, and faith in the power that dedicating to, to art, to yourself, time to yourself, the power that has to heal and to empower you in the short and the long term, that has. I think
Mm.
that with all so many unknowns, I mean, if you can control one thing, maybe how you spend parts of your day and how you react
Mm,
to what you are witnessing or hearing. If
mm,
it's too much, turn it off. And, the power to share your story, find out what that is, explore, find something that brings you joy. I believe in that, the power of the resonance of that, and the people around you. But first it comes, from you. If you're happy and healthy,
mm.
and that's going to resonate in your family and friends. So I guess there's a lot of things, but just kind of, we all have an opportunity to set an example and take care of ourselves first and foremost. And but the art has the power to heal, and heal outside of ourselves, other people, in the short and long term, I think. I don't know.
Amen.
Yeah. Boom.
Amen. Every time you open your mouth, I'm like a big, like, full body
I'm just
exhale.
a bundle of cliches. Here's the mic drop.
I love it, and I love you, miss. I
I
want
love
you
you
to come
too.
back, and
Oh,
just tell us everything that's happening for Christmas. I want people to buy everything that you're doing.
well, only if you can now. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I don't like to push people shopping, but of course, I do encourage, if you can, and you are looking for music. Lots of my friends were all on Bandcamp. That's a great place to buy music. And then supporting artists on Patreon. A lot of my dear friends around the world, musicians, artists, are on Patreon, and that's another way you can support artists. I'm on there. You can support monthly or yearly. And that's great. And I mean, I have a new Christmas single out this year. It's my third year in a row. We've put out an original song. This one's called Kisses for Christmas. And we have a December 13th online virtual holiday event that I'm hoping goes well. It's I don't know why I said it like that. I'm excited. I love these online events when they're happening, but they really scare the shit out of me. Like, I'm always like, is the internet gonna work? Are people gonna have technical problems? But you know
Yeah.
what? When we do it and we try, we always have a blast. So that's December 13th, and everything, people can find everything on my website, ChristinaMartin.net. But thank you so much, Estelle. You're an inspiration, and I'm just so in awe of you. I love your energy, and I'm happy to hang out, talk anytime you want. I feel like you're just great to be around.
It's
And
such a
yeah.
feedback loop. I feel the same about you.
Yeah. Even just like staring at a computer right now, watching
I know.
the wavelength of your voice is very comforting. So,
Aw. Anytime, anytime. So let's all go to ChristinaMartin.com. That's your website, yes?
oh, .net, but that's okay. You can go to
.net.
.com. I
Yeah.
think .com would be good too. That's a comedian in the UK.
Christina, come back anytime. Love you.
Love you
Bye.
too. Ciao.
This podcast was produced by Tosh Taylor of the Podcast Hub Productions. Find her online at podcasthub.ca.